Chapter 25. Everything Comes Right. After a good rest, the 6 woodpeckers set to work again on the hole they had made. Drrrr went their strong beaks, drumming away at the wood. Everyone watched to see the hole getting bigger and bigger and bigger. Then a voice floated up singing a mournful song. 2 kettles for Silky, 2 saucepans for me, 2 dishes for Moonface, we're sad as can be. That's old Saucepan Man, said Joe in delight. Did you hear his silly song? That's to tell us they are all there. Move aside a bit, woodpeckers, and let me call to them. The woodpeckers made room for Joe by the hole. He stuck his head through it and yelled loudly, Silky, Moonface, Saucepan Man, we're going to rescue you. We'll pull you through a hole we've made at the back of the Angry Pixie's room. There was a squeal of delight from Silky, a shout from Moonface, and a clatter of pans from Saucepan. We're coming, yelled Moonface. We've got a rope to come up by. We shan't be long. Is the hole big enough to squeeze through yet? Not yet, shouted back Joe, but the woodpeckers are just going to set to work again, and they'll soon have it big enough for you. Rrrr, rrrr, went the woodpeckers' strong beaks, and the hole grew larger and larger. At last, it really was big enough for anyone to get through. Joe leaned through it, his torch shining down through the slippery slip. He saw a light gleaming a little way down and noticed a rope shaking nearby, as if someone was holding on to it. They're coming up, he said to the others. They've got a light of some sort too. Oh, it's a candle. I can see Moonface now. He's the first, and he's helping up Silky. The old Saucepan Man is behind. They'll soon be here, Angry Pixie. Angry Pixie put on a kettle to boil some water. I expect they would like a hot chocolate or something. And have you got anything to eat? I've got pop biscuits and guggle buns, said the Angry Pixie, looking in a tin. They'll like those. Moonface at last hauled himself right up through the hole. His round face looked white and rather worried, but he gave Joe a grin as usual. Help Silky through first, he said. Joe and Rick pulled Silky through the hole. She looked pale, but how glad she was to see all her friends. She flung her arms around Beth and Franny, and they all cried tears of joy down one another. Then Moonface squeezed through the hole, and at last of all, the Saucepan Man, though he had to take off a few pans before he could get through. We never thought we'd ever be rescued, said Moonface. We'd quite given up hope. We kept knocking and banging, hoping someone would hear us. Yes, we did hear you, said Joe. That's what made us think you might be trapped inside the slippery slip. But Moonface, how did you get there? What happened? Wait a minute. Let me have something to eat and drink first, said What's-His-Name. Let them have something to eat and drink first, said What's-His-Name. They must be terribly hungry, not having had anything to eat or drink for so long. Oh, we had plenty, said Moonface. We didn't starve, but I'll tell you all about it. Everyone settled down to hear the story. You see, one morning this week, Silky and the Saucepan Man and I were sitting up in my house talking, began Moonface, and suddenly we saw 2 people from the land of Tempers looking in at us. Yes, Sir Stamp-a-Lot and Lady Yellow-Round, said Joe. We know them. Well, they looked very fiercely at us, said Moonface, and they told us that they wanted to leave the land of tempers because the headman was very angry with them about something. I think they had broken his window in a temper. Well, they had escaped, and they meant to live in a faraway tree. They had found out by accident that their land was right over it, you see. And they wanted your house, cried Rick. Yes, said Moonface. They had been down the tree and seen that Silky's house was empty because Silky was up here with me, and had taken that for themselves. At least Yellow Round meant to have it for herself, and Stamp-a-Lot meant to have mine. And they said they had stopped up the trapdoor at the bottom, and Silky, and they meant to push us down the slippery slip, and then stopped up the hole in Moonface's room so that we could be prisoners in the slide. Well, you can guess how frightened we were, said Moonface. Old Saucepan Man heard it all because Stamp-a-Lot shouted so loudly, and the clever old thing began to stuff his kettles and saucepans with food from my larder, and some candles too, and matches, and a rope. I couldn't think what he was doing, so, of course, when we were pushed into the slippery slip, we had plenty of food, said Silky, putting her arms around Saucepan Man and hugging him. All because Saucepan Man was so clever. He managed to tie the rope on to something so that we had that to climb up and down on if we wanted to, said Moonface, and we found a little sort of cubbyhole halfway down where we could sit and eat and drink. We lit a candle, and then Silky thought of knocking and banging somewhere near to the Angry Pixie's house, just in case you might be there and hear it. Oh, we were so worried about you, said Joe. We just simply didn't know what to do. I'm so glad we thought of the woodpeckers, so you're really not very hungry or thirsty after all. No, not very, said Moonface, but some of the cakes we brought got rather stale. Woodpeckers, would you like it? It was a treat for the woodpeckers, and they pecked up all the stale cake eagerly before they flew off. They had been very pleased to help, and now but now what were they going to do about Stamp-a-Lot and Yellow Round? How were they going to get them out of their houses? Said Silky. We can't all live with the Angry Pixie. His house is too small. Just as she said that, there came the sound of shouting and yelling some way up the tree. Everyone listened. That's Yellow Round, I'm sure, said Silky. Let's go and see what's happening. Well, quite a lot was happening. About 8 people from the land of tempers, with the head man leading them, had come down the tree to capture Stamp-a-Lot and Yellow Round. The head man had remembered what Franny had said, and he had come to find the 2 escaped people. They had easily found Stamp-a-Lot, for he was asleep in Moonface's house, which was not far below the ladder leading up to the top into the land of tempers. But Yellow Round had not been so easily captured. She had seen the head man climbing down the tree, and had tried to escape. She had fallen and had hung by one of her feet from a branch, yelling and squealing, because she was so afraid of falling, and the head man just picked her up by her feet and dragged her up to the top like that. Everyone watched in silence. Yellow Round was squealing loudly in a terrible rage, but nobody took any notice. I wouldn't go back to the land of tempers, she yelled. I won't go back to the land of tempers, she yelled. I won't, I won't. But she had to. Up the ladder she was carried, upside down, and Stamp-a-Lot was pushed up too. Serve them right, said Moonface, taking our houses from us and trapping us in the slippery slip like that. They all went up. Moonface was sad to see the house so untidy, and so many of his things broken. Everyone helped him put it right, and they all looked at the stuffed-up slippery slip. The spell put on it will now be gone, and now those two horrible people have gone, said Moonface. We can pull everything out. So it wasn't long before the hole was free of all the things that were stuffed in it. Moonface shook out his cushions and grinned at the children. Well, everything's all right again, he said. I'm so happy. It's lovely to have good friends like you. We'd better go home now, said Joe. We've been away quite a long time. We can't slide down the slippery slip because it's all... We can't slide down the slippery slip because it's all stuffed up at the bottom, said Franny. Well, I'll send a message down to the red squirrel to clear it, said Moonface. He whistled to the sparrow, sitting on a nearby branch. Hey, little brown bird, fly down to the red squirrel and tell him to open the trapdoor at the bottom of the tree and clear the slide there, will you? He asked. Tell him to do it at once. The sparrow flew off. Moonface handed round a tin of toffee shocks, and everyone took one. Just time to have one whilst the squirrel is clearing out the mess, he said. Hark, I can hear the land of tempers moving off. Sure enough, there came the noise of the land moving away, the curious creaking, groaning noise that the strange lands always made when they went. What land will come next, I wonder, said Joe. I know what it will be, said Mr. What's-his-name. I heard the bearded man of the land of tempers say that the land of presents was due tomorrow. Oh, said Moonface, his eyes shining. We must all go to that, the land of presents. That's a marvellous land. We can all go and get as many presents as we like, just as if it was our birthday. Come tomorrow, will you? We'll all go. I can get some new carpets and things. Stamp-a-Lot spoilt so many of my belongings. We'll come, said Joe. We'll come, said Joe, as he slid down the slippery slip on a yellow cushion. We'll all come, rather.